Hello, everyone, and welcome to our event today. For today's event, I want to give you a little context about what's going to happen, all the great things we have in store for you. So, the National Association for Media Literacy Education, also known as NAMELY, and the Joan Gans Cooney Center at Sesame Workshop has teamed up to host this webinar, also available to view on NAMELY's Facebook Live event today. And this will be a conversation with adult and youth experts for Safer Internet Day. So what is Safer Internet Day, you may ask? Well, I'm glad you did. Well, every February, stakeholders across the globe recognize Safer Internet Day. They join together to make the internet a safer and better place for all, especially for children and young people. As children around the world have become acquainted with spending more time on the internet since COVID-19 pandemic, it is now critical to explore the necessities and opportunities for them to thrive and succeed in a digital world. I want to emphasize that word thrive because today's event, titled From Surviving to Thriving in a Digital World, a Safer Internet Day chat, it will be a conversation about the importance of designing online experiences with kids' well-being in mind, including providing insights from young people on what they need in order to thrive when their lives are digital by default. So today's event is broken down into three parts. Part one will feature a panel of experts. You're going to get all that good insight. But then part two, we're going to hear from the young people. We will then close out with an open Q&A from audience questions. We will take in your questions and answer those and bring everyone back together. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat throughout the event, and we will answer them all at the end. Now let's meet our panel and our moderator. So our panel, first up, we have Elizabeth Milovidov. Dr. Elizabeth Milovidov is a senior manager of digital child safety supporting the LEGO Group. As a trusted leader in implementing and promoting digital child safety, well-being, and citizenship in parallel with responsible digital engagement with children. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here.
Next, we have Michael Preston. Michael Preston is the executive director of the Joan Gans Cooney Center. Moving forward, we will call it the Cooney Center at Sesame Workshop, a research and innovation lab that focuses on harnessing the potential of emerging media to promote children's learning and well-being. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks so much, Jamika and Elizabeth. Great to see you.
Great to see you too. And certainly we have, last but certainly not least, our moderator for today's event, Michelle Chula-Lipkin. Michelle is the executive director of the National Association for Media Literacy Education, NAMELY. Michelle has helped NAMELY grow to be the preeminent media literacy education association in the US. She launched the first ever Media Literacy Week in the US, now in its 9th year, developed strategic partnerships with companies such as Thomson Reuters, Meta, YouTube, Nickelodeon, and many more. Welcome, Michelle, to today's event.
Thank you so much, Jamika, and thanks for the great intro. Happy Safer Internet Day, everyone.
I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Yeah, hand it on over.
Enjoy. I can't wait to watch. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth and Michael, for being here. Always a pleasure to see you and talk with you. And I think we should just kind of dive in. And really, we're here. I'm sure you have very busy schedules. And I'm wondering if you could just start with why this conversation and why this work is important to you personally. Elizabeth, why don't you start? And then we'll go to Michael.
Yeah, sure. So I think anytime I get to talk about children being online and their well-being, I am just excited. So I've been in this area for the past 12 years. And, whether I'm talking with parents or families or children, I'm always trying to help them get the best out of what is out there, to understand all of the opportunities that are in this online world and kind of reducing the risk. And if we can't always reduce that risk, then to increase that resilience and overall just to make sure that really we are thriving. So this is all kind of rolled up into this new position that I have at the LEGO Group, where I am the Global Digital Child Safety Lead, and I get to work on all sorts of cool projects to make sure that children have the best time online and thrive and stay safe and learn some things and feel empowered. So it's very cool.
I think the job title is brilliant. And I imagine there's so many people out there that don't even realize that that can be someone's work. And it's amazing. It really is amazing. All the jobs that are out there now because of this new landscape, right? Michael, how about you?
Like Elizabeth, it's I think very personal for me. It's a career-long passion to center kids in their experience of learning and exploration and fun and creativity that technology can enable. I started off in public schools and spent a long time in New York City schools and other places where we were trying to use technology as a lever to give kids more control and more opportunity in whatever context they were in. And I've been at the Cooney Center now for a number of years, where our work is very focused on bringing what I call Sesame-inspired design principles and practices out into a wider world. And the well-being space, aside from the fact that I think we're all very committed to well-being more than ever, having just made it through several years of really difficult times as a community writ large, that the sense that you can actually make design choices and moves that are practical for yourself and your family, your community, that can help, seems like a really opportune time for us to focus on ways in which digital spaces could also be leveraged in that way, and how can we do better together. So it connects all the things I care about, and especially the opportunity, as we'll get later in our event here today, time to hear directly from the kids. So I'm so excited to be here too.
I love that idea of Sesame, thinking like Sesame. I feel like we need to do that in all aspects of our life, please. So let's talk for a second about this concept of well-being, because I think that we've heard a lot over the years about digital safety, and we've heard about digital citizenship. And it seems like there's really a lot more conversation about this idea of digital well-being. So from your perspective, what does well-being for children in a digital world even mean? I'll send it over to you first, Elizabeth, again.
No, I was going to let Michael go first.
Okay,
I'm
look at us
switching it up. Yeah, being flexible.
Keeping me on my toes. Okay.
We can tag each other in. That's great. Thank you, Elizabeth. So I guess keeping my Sesame hat on, I think of it as very derived from our whole child approach to learning here at the workshop. As well as ongoing work that we have here with our colleagues from LEGO. The LEGO Foundation supports a Learning Through Play initiative at Sesame on that side of the house. And we really consider well-being to be a critical outcome of children's experience in digital spaces, all spaces, including digital, really. And so when we think about this work, it's really holistic, that we think about physical health and safety. Of course, today is Safer Internet Day, but also mental stability and positive emotion as components of that, and also social, that we're really invested in caring relationships and contexts in which those can happen. So there's also a lot of really interesting design guidance in the world to draw from, the Designing for Children's Rights work, for example, and a lot of wonderful emerging research on defining well-being, including some stuff that we'll talk about today, I'm sure. So it's really kind of a period of time where we try to kind of settle some common definitions, and then make some moves in the design direction.
Thoughts on that, Elizabeth, on what well-being means?
Yeah, for sure. So I think, prior to coming to the LEGO group, of course, I was always working in this area and using sort of this word of well-being, meaning, being well online. And it's really, I would say in the past year, being in this company and actually having the pleasure of work with Michael and UNICEF and others, that doing all the research and looking at what everybody else is doing and pulling together as far as what does it mean to be well online? What is truly well-being? And I agree with Michael that we're not quite there yet. There's lots of definitions, and I don't think there's a joint agreement. But I would say that it really is this idea that children can be in a digital environment. They can be in digital communities without harm. They have agency. They're able to create. They're able to connect. I think that all of this is truly important, with a little layer of mindfulness, right? Of just understanding when it's okay to get off, when it's okay to go back on, because again, we do want our children to understand and be able to operate in a digital world, which means that, you know, having access is one way to do that.
I know that both of you are working together on the conversation of how do you build like well-being into the product, right? How do you think about well-being as the heart of digital design? And I know that every time I've heard you kind of talk about this work, it's really fascinating to me. So I'd love to dive in a little bit on that, about kind of why you feel it's important to consider that when you're designing digital products and policies. And, you know, what are you doing in this frame right now? So I'm going to let you guys fight it out. Like, who's going to start?
You keep going this time, and then I'll take it back from you.
Okay, that sounds like a plan. So, you know, coming at this angle from being a company, and a company that, you know, is really dedicated to children. They're at the core of everything that we do. It's just sort of, I want to say, a no-brainer that as we realize that children are playing more and now on this digital playground, that of course we're going to want to be there and to help them again to do it in a way where they can thrive. So one of the things that's really cool about the work that I'm doing at the LEGO Group is that I was able to kind of create 5 core principles about how we are going to go forward as we look at digital engagements and digital experiences, you know, and what we believe in, what are our values. And one of them is a pillar on digital well-being. And that's the exciting part where I get to work with Michael and others. And so, you know, as we start from this kind of top-down approach, we also did a bottom-up, meaning that I was talking with employees who create digital experiences for kids, who design digital games, you know, saying, what does digital well-being mean for you? What does digital safety mean for you? What does digital empowerment mean for you? And so we were able to sort of pull all these things together to offer us a framework, to offer us guidelines, a sort of checklist, if you want. So now comes the fun part where we take all of these learnings and we try to create a process where anyone who's going to design for something for children is going to say, okay, well, you know, how can I do this with all of these things in mind? It's there, it's in my head. I know I'm supposed to do it, but I don't want to stifle creativity. I want to be as innovative as possible, but I want to ensure that children have the best experience ever. So that is what we are doing right now as we speak. It's happening in the scenes. And so it'll be really super in a few more weeks, months, I'll say, when we can tell you that we have the secret sauce.
We're also looking for secret sauce. So I think we need to kind of share recipes or have a taste test. But I think.
Oh, wait, we have to pause for a second at Elizabeth Smug.
Yeah.
She wins. Although your Grover poster is pretty darn good, I gotta say.
Brought my Fraggle Rock mug. Can you do that?
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I think Lego win.
No one told me to bring the impressive mug.
This is life at Lego. You know, the Lego,
Yeah,
we've got everything.
exactly.
It's Lego. It's wonderful.
And now I've totally confused my webcam, and so it has no idea what to zoom on. So I'm just going to be fuzzy for a minute. To answer your question, though, Michelle, you know, about putting children's well-being at the heart of digital design, like I think that's the bridge we're trying to build between what researchers, families, caregivers kind of understand, whether it's an academic or personal experience kind of perspective, and mobilize it in ways that can be translated into practical implementation. It's a process. I think it's like what we said in our previous kind of discussion around defining well-being. It's still exploratory, but I think there's a lot of interest that we find, especially among folks who design for kids, obviously, but also in broader industry, you know, representatives who make technology for all people, and kids may happen to use it, which is a lot of things. But this idea that if you have certain goals and make kind of a mark of excellence, that you're committed to the well-being outcomes of your users, that actually is a better business practice. It's responsible, but it also elevates the work that you do. And children as the target for this kind of innovative and hopefully innovative and iterative and community-based approach can be positive. So we're part of a collaborative initiative called RITEC, which is short for Responsible Innovation in Technology for Children, launched last April with a research report published by UNICEF. It was founded by UNICEF and the LEGO Group, Elizabeth's World, and is supported by the LEGO Foundation. And so this is work where we're trying to bridge research conducted by the UNICEF team with academic partners into a space where creators of digital media and technology can actually try to adopt the ideas, the indicators, and the measures, and see how well they can be operationalized in design. So that's an ongoing process. There's a road ahead for sure. Researchers are currently testing some of those ideas right now with kids. And then our plan is to bring them back to be informative to both industry and policymaker audiences. So I think, again, the heavy lift is that bridge from the learnings and findings, the insights, into a space where people can actually employ them. And so that is something that we're really committed to right now, and we feel very hopeful about.
Yeah, and I'm gonna jump back in, Michelle.
Please do.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear dive more in.
Yeah, I'm gonna tag team again. So I think I just loved everything that Michael was saying. I'm just nodding my head emphatically, because what is also so cool about what we're doing is that so many other companies in general, you create something and then afterwards you see the effect, you can make adjustments. We are trying to create it with already that well-being in the forefront. And so it's really cool to think that we're not just talking about keeping kids safe online, which is, obviously super important. We're not talking about, making sure they have responsible behaviors online or even resilience online. We are talking about from inception, of the design process, that we think about how can they actually thrive? How can they be better? How can, when they turn off, there he's back. How can, when they turn off their screens, when they, whatever they're doing, whatever that digital experience is, whether it's a campaign or watching, I don't know, a streaming video, that when they get off, they're better. That is huge. That's something that, I personally think we're the first people in the whole time of history to do this. Maybe not, but it feels that way. It's pretty cutting edge and it's very cool.
Well, and the intention is I'm so behind the intention 150%. It is interesting to me though, because now we've been living in technology and kids have been growing up surrounded by technology and in this media saturated world, that it almost is like, well, of course you should be doing what you are doing right now. Of course that's what should be considered when creating product, and it just seems so unbelievably obvious. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about why now? What is it about this moment in particular that you felt like we have to do this now and we have to make this happen? And then I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about how others are contributing it. When you say other industry leaders or policymakers, how do you think this can grow? So I guess those are two very different questions, but why now and where do we go from here?
Well, so for me, I started with the LEGO Group. It's only been a little more than a year, so I can't do so much of the why now. So I'll leave that to Michael, but I can do the why me now, and why I was super happy to kind of jump in and grab this project. And that is because, again, it's changing the conversation. I've been in this area 12 years, and usually, the parents aren't always in the room when we're talking about, technology and digital literacy, et cetera. And this type of project takes the onus off of parents because it's already something good to begin with. And that is something that, just makes me tingly, because it is so, it's just so avant-garde. It's just out there. So, I mean, that's the first part. I think I'll let Michael answer that, and then I'll answer the second question.
Okay. We'll pass it back and forth. It'll be like it's pickleball or something.
I can keep up.
Okay.
Yeah, I do think now is particularly present for all the reasons Elizabeth said. I think also we've just spent a lot of time with our technology and want more from it. And I think actually I noticed a good question in the chat from Mark Engman about having children's voices at the table. And I think that's actually one of our talking points for this evening, actually, is the role of children and young people at the table as both experts of their own experience, but also giving us deep insights into their media lives and their lives in general, their needs and interests and things that may not be well served by anything that's designed for them, technology and otherwise. And so the opportunity to give them a seat at the table and learn together and design together, I think is a key part of this. But we understand that technology is evolving rapidly. A new platform arrived 2 months ago and suddenly had 100 million users. So I think we have to realize there's a certain move of future-proofing our work. As new and unexpected technologies arrive, what is our orientation toward human experience and the ability for us as part of a design community to adapt to those fast-moving changes and to meet the needs of people is a new practice that we need to kind of establish. So in some ways, I feel like this is catching up to where we should have already been, and it makes perfect sense to have the next generation at the table for that.
Yeah, and I would even go further for Mark's question about, how can we engage in such debates, right? Where to have children's voices at the table, again, by setting the example. So, I mean, today is one thing, but even with the digital principles, digital child rights and wellbeing principles that we created at the Lego Group, we also spoke with a partner, Microsoft. So with their European Council of Digital Good, we spoke with the teenagers and said, what do you think about this? And yes, we know that they were teenagers and usually our target audience is a little bit younger, but we asked the question like, what would you say to your younger brother or sister about this? And how would you explain these things to a sibling? So we really wanted to get their opinions because as Michael so rightly said, I mean, this is their world. This is, we're designing and creating for them, and they definitely need to have, they have a right to be heard.
Yes, and we're so excited because soon we're going to hear from some younger people, which is great. When you consider, though, how you envision, because this is bold, this is innovative, it's the direction industry should go. Like, how do you engage the industry? How do you engage others that are doing this work? And where do you want it to be in like five years?
I'll go first. I'm not sure if we figured that out.
Okay, thanks.
I'll start. I think, honestly, it really is a community effort. In my travels, I've found that there's an ally in every organization, that there's somebody who really wants this work to happen. People make career paths in design and technology or in kids' work because they want positive things to happen in the world. And sometimes it's very hard and messy with the competing sort of interests inside companies. The businesses are optimized, obviously, to be to thriving businesses, not necessarily to optimize for the well-being of the people they reach and serve. But I think they are aligned. And so if you're looking to empower people with a set of knowledge or tools, ways of working to elevate their good practices so that they may have maybe more credibility within an organization, but also find allies outside of the organization. And so in the work we're doing, we're also simultaneously working on a digital thriving project with the Fair Play Alliance, a coalition of game developers. And they are already kind of a pre-built community of people who want better games for the 3 billion people who play them around the world. I might actually have gotten that number wrong, but it's like half of humanity that plays games. So how do you consider that there's a brain trust among folks who really have already raised their hands for this kind of work? So I see it as just collective action around their ideas and knowledge, and then maybe that becomes the momentum we need at a community level.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and I think, Michelle, you were asking specifically about industry, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I also have two hats to wear here. So first, with respect to industry, I know that for me personally, using the network of the fact that I had consulted for Microsoft and Google and Instagram previously means that those are people that I'm talking to and sharing what we're doing. Obviously, with this Responsible Innovation in Technology for Children project, we will be looking for more partners to test this to see if it works in all sorts of different situations. So that is one way. And Michael and I won't say that we're doing a road trip trip, but you will see us at a few different places, talking about this and trying to get as much enthusiasm and other people joining in with us, taking up the cause. But if I put on my other hat, which is as a digital parenting expert, the parenting community is huge, right? So we also have the parent teacher associations, the parenting communities that are also, of course, interested and really our first sort of stakeholders because they want their children to thrive. So by just doing that sort of word of mouth and letting them know, what companies are trying to do, that's great, because then we get more and more engaged families asking us and checking with us and actually even wanting to do more testing and focus groups with us. One of the things that is very cool is working in the London hub of the Lego group and seeing the kids come in to play and to test. It's just it's very cool.
Yeah, you both have good gigs. That's fun. I mean, and you get to think of so many different dynamic ways and to think about the digital world, to think about children's place in the digital world. It's really, really, I mean, we could talk for hours about this. I mean, I would like to, we're going to go to our youth panel in a couple of minutes, but I would love to just give you just a chance. So today is Safer Internet Day, and I hope the audience I hear the word thrive all the time. We're talking about beyond surviving, right? Really, really empowering kids to have full lives that are successful in the digital space. And I wonder if you have any kind of overarching thoughts or anything you want to share with the audience, very specifically about what you want people to take away from Safer Internet Day and this connection between safety and well-being.
Yeah, no, for me, that one's just really simple. It's just two things that I've been saying forever, which is critical thinking and conversations. That's it. And so I think, there are parents and families, even colleagues who say, I need the foolproof app or parental control or something to make sure that my children are safe online or doing well online. And it doesn't exist. And so one of the best ways that we can make something happen is by having those conversations, talking and sharing the best practices, the best tips and tricks and the things that we have. And just like when your children were little babies and you found, I don't know, a super bottle that didn't drip or spill, or the great toy that really kept them going for hours on end. That's the type of, word of mouth that we want to get going for these types of projects. So that way it really can just become this sort of grassroots movement and just kind of take over, where we really do have a next generation of children that are doing well. And I will not say thriving, but that are doing exceptionally well
I love
in the online world.
That's great. Michael, parting thoughts. I mean, I'm bringing you back later, but parting thoughts for this section.
What is the appropriate gift for Safer Internet Day if you're celebrating? You have to let us know what that is. I actually think it might be a Lego mug.
Yeah.
I think it's a conversation deck.
Yeah, that's good too. I guess first of all, I would want to recognize that we're here with you, Michelle, and namely being kind of this important organization in the field that gathers a large number of individuals and organizations that are committed to media literacy, which is a foundational piece of what it means to be safe. There's a dialogue between what we as people who use technology are responsible for and how to make best use. And then there's also the design side, where we know that we can do better in terms of meeting the needs and interests of people. So it takes both sides. And I'm thrilled that we're having this conversation today, where we're really showing that we respect young people's views by actually having them follow up here, and we'll come back together at the end, I think, to talk to them. But this idea of that it's about communication, right? That if you want kids to feel empowered to explore and go off into the world and feel ready to play and connect and have kind of a balanced life, that the way you do that is by preparing them and enabling them. And so that to me is Safer Internet Day.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for starting us off. We're, like I said, we'll bring you back after we have some time with our youth panel. And please, if you're listening in, please add your questions to the Q&A. We'd love to hear what you want to hear from all of us. So I will wave goodbye to Elizabeth and Michael and hope that the people behind the curtain will return you to backstage and then bring our wonderful youth up. We have Amin, Pranav, Caden, and Alexa joining us. And I wish there was something I could do to just make it. There we go. Look at me, I'm magic. There's Amin. I love it. Hi, Pranav. Caden's here. There we go. Hi. Nice to see you all.
Hi.
So thank you so much for being here. I think Michael, Elizabeth, you might be listening in for a little while longer. We'll see what happens. It's technology, who knows? Amin, Pranav, Caden, Alexa, we're so happy to have you here. Thank you for spending some time with us on Safer Internet Day. Rather than do any introductions myself, I would love it if we could kind of go around and you could just introduce yourselves and tell us kind of what you're doing in this space of say, like why you're here and what you're doing in your perspective organizations that have brought you to this conversation. So I'll let you, so Amin, I see you first. So why don't you start?
Hello, everyone. My name is Amin. I'm a sophomore in North California. And so basically, I started to explore the digital world kind of during the pandemic when we were all stuck at home. And it was a lot. In addition to school and just the hardships that came, with the pandemic in general, I noticed mental health rapidly decreasing, and I wanted to just like learn more and do what I could. So basically, I'm working on developing my own app for teen mentorship to help teens feel seen and their light reflected. I'm a youth leader and advisor for the company Headstream. Headstream is a national innovation program that's focused on creating a just and thriving digital economy that supports the well-being of young people. And I'm also a youth advisor to a very cool company called Empathy. I can put the link in the chat later. Empathy is a social app. It's a social media that creates empathetic communities. It inspires transparency, normalizes human emotions, and it's pretty much recreating the social media experience to better serve people's well-being and to allow more authentic and real connections. So yeah, all three of these opportunities have given people the opportunity to be their authentic selves, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
I love that. Sounds awesome. Okay, Caden, you're next.
Hi, my name is Caden Kutchman. I'm 17 years old. I work with an organization called I Can Help. It's our mission to promote the positive uses of social media and inspire more people to create projects like passion projects through social media. And then we, as an organization, provide them with, we promote the work that they do and provide as much mentorship as possible. I've been working with I Can Help for about 3 years now. I'm currently leading the PR team. And I will also be hosting an event called Digital for Good in a few weeks, where we will bring together all of the student leaders of the year and selecting a winner and providing mentorship and a program to help other students around the world create these types of projects, as well as inspiring them to use digital platforms for good.
It's awesome. Alexa.
Hi, my name is Alexa. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm also from I Can Help and Digital for Good with Caden. I'm a junior at Northern Arizona University studying special early childhood education. And I've been with I Can Help since I was in 7th grade, and they just can't seem to get rid of me. I keep coming back. And so right now I serve as social impact manager, but a lot of the work we do at I Can Help, like Caden said, is reflected in our students and highlighting the projects that they do. In addition to that, we also have curriculum for schools to talk about digital wellness and digital safety and citizenship with their students to get students part of the conversation. The reason I keep coming back to I Can Help and Digital for Good is because they put such an emphasis on student voice. Everything we do is for students and is by students. And I think that's really where we see this conversation happening, is within the younger generation, talking to adults and mentors and teachers and parents about what their role is in helping us navigate everything. So I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you for having us.
I love it. I love it. This is so exciting. I'm so happy to be here right now. Pranav.
Hi, everyone. My name is Pranav Karthikeyan, and I'm an 8th grader from New Jersey. And my journey with media literacy and internet safety started in the pandemic. I was like 10 or 11 years old. And I wanted to, I saw how my grandfather and some of my uncles and my relatives were spreading a lot of fake news, which was not just, it was dangerous, like fake cures with the coronavirus and vaccine misinformation. So first of all, I thought this was like a small thing in our family, but then out of interest, I wanted to see if this problem was actually widespread. I saw that it was, and I saw that many people were actually getting harmed by this. So I knew that I had to do something. So I went to Namely, and I became the junior Namely media literacy ambassador. And my goal was just to like combat misinformation and spread the word of media literacy. And last summer, I think I went to India, gave a few talks in schools to children in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade about media literacy, because I felt like some schools in the area where it wasn't really a widespread topic in many countries outside the US. So I felt like it was my job to start an initiative to spread media literacy around the globe.
You are all fantastic. I am so happy that you're here and really, really appreciate your time. I think it's so important for people to hear about the amazing work that's being done in the digital wellness space and in the digital for good, thinking about how do we use these tools for the betterment of society. I mean, you just heard 3 adults talk about some of this stuff. And, you know, I'm always really curious from your perspective, like, what do you wish adults knew about being a teen in a digital world? You know, what and maybe even respond to anything that you heard that stuck out to you. So you know what, I'm going to go to you, Alexa, to start us off. So thinking about like, what do you wish adults knew? What do you wish us old people knew about being a teen today?
Definitely. I think, and I've heard this conversation even within my own family. It's easy for people who didn't grow up with social media to say, you know, just turn it off, just delete the app, you don't need to be on it. But we're at the point where social media and technology is here to stay. It's no use in fighting it anymore. Now we have to figure out how to work together navigating it. So rather than fighting your students or your children's use of technology or social media, I feel like it'd be really impactful to figure out how to navigate that world together. And I think that's really the role that adults serve in mentoring students, is being a resource for them. And even, I know it can be scary because some adults, like, I don't know, they know the platform better than I do, I don't know, but have that open conversation with your child, with your student, you know, like, hey, I saw a news article about this TikTok trend going on, like, and don't come from it with an accusatory standpoint. Like, do you know what this is? Like, have you seen this going on? Or what do you think about like that happened at your school? Like, how did that make you feel? Like, are your classmates participating in it? I think really having an open conversation and being like, let's explore this digital world together, because that's when relationships really come into play, is when something does come up, then your student feels comfortable talking to you about it, and they don't feel shame of, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing this anyways, or like they think I spend too much time on my phone anyways, like they're going to say it's a result from that. Really, it's figuring out how to navigate together so you're available as a resource.
I love that. Oh, I couldn't agree more, you know, just opening up dialogue as opposed to talking at people. Caden, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, something about social media that has genuinely changed the way that our generation acts and thinks with each other is that a lot of people remember those small communities in which they grew up that influenced their belief systems and the way that they experienced their childhood. But through social media, we've sort of done away with that myopic viewpoint of society. And we've had the opportunity to experience troubles from all places in the world. We're all so much more aware of the happenings in other countries and honestly, politics, even in the US and outside of the US. We are a very socially aware generation that most generations can't really relate to in that way. And also because of this mass amount of information, we have also been one of the most innovative generations in history. You'll see more small businesses because of social media now than you ever have. And even though the US specifically has a lot of economic issues right now, you have never seen so many small businesses, so many entrepreneurial spirits as you will on social media. So I just wish that adults could see that the exposure to the internet, it creates and it bears creativity, and it allows people to express themselves in ways that are more than just tweets or Instagram posts. There's so much more to the internet than that.
I love that. Amin, Pranav, do you want to share anything? I know we have a bunch of questions that we can go through, but I want to give everyone a chance on this one. Anything you want to add about what you wish adults knew?
Yeah, of course. I feel like a lot of adults, especially for middle schoolers like me, we're just getting our phones at this age, like 13, 14-year-olds. They feel like I've heard some of my parents talking to other parents of my friends. So they're like saying, oh, I can't believe this child who's just 12 got a phone for his birthday. They think we're too immature to handle this burden of social media, where you can type anything you want if you just don't think about it. And several people will see that, but I do understand that. I do understand their concern, but I feel that as long as people my age, like 12, 13, 14-year-olds, should maintain maturity and deal with because technically, like when you're on social media, it's like you have a weapon in your hands. You can say anything you want, everyone will see it. So as long as you know how to handle that responsibility and privilege properly, I think it's actually more of a good thing, because just like Caden said, there's so many benefits you know about. You get to learn about lots of global issues you probably wouldn't have heard of without social media. There are so many things that there's so many benefits, but also a few things that are not that good about social media. But as long as you use social media responsibly, I think you can reap the benefits of it.
Love it. Amin, do you want to share anything?
Sure. I think everyone has encompassed most of what I was going to say, but I think similar to Caden, I think that I really want adults to understand that while there are so many negatives, there are a lot of positives, especially, for example, during the pandemic. We were all stuck at home, and kind of not social media, but social media and just other digital spaces were the only way that like teens and us youth could maintain connections with each other and act like kind of stay sane in a way, because we were all stuck at home. We couldn't really go outside, and we'd never really had an experience like this. So I think that while obviously considering all the negatives, it's also important to look at the positive impacts.
Yeah, and I think that it is so interesting. You are all at everyone had a very specific experience of the pandemic based on where you were in your life. But I think if you were in school and you had to shift into remote school, and you are social beings, and to have to shift into not being with people, it is so interesting to think about how our relationship with technology changed, and how it gave us the opportunity to connect and stay together. I think it's really, important to note. Could you even imagine? I couldn't imagine if we didn't have those options. So thinking about like, as someone that runs a media literacy organization, a lot of times we're thinking about like, what skills do students need? What skills do people need to really succeed in the world today? And I'm wondering if you have thoughts about that. Like, what skills do you think youth need to thrive? And also, how does that match up with what you're actually learning in school? And I'm going to go with Caden first. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. So Caden.
So the most important skill that I could personally suggest is understanding going into social media, that social media is in and itself a groupthink platform. Going onto a platform like Twitter, realizing that just because there's a lot of people doesn't mean that there's a lot of perspectives is the most important thing that you can do. Because there's going to be so many issues that are discussed across so many different like types of subjects, whether it be social justice or even like geopolitical issues like in other countries. You have to understand that the majority of what you're hearing is what is the loudest voices. You're not going to be hearing multiple perspectives very often, which is one of the biggest downfalls of social media. And when one person is exposed to that groupthink ideology, they join it, and then it compounds, and it just becomes more and more and more of the same type of thinking. And that is a huge part of what disconnects youth from older generations, because those older generations who are not necessarily on the same platforms are not getting the same information. And so understanding that when you're using social media, that you are being exposed to usually a single story can really allow you to continue your research, visit other perspectives outside of social media, and make sure that you are fully understanding the complexities and the nuance to the issues that you're discussing.
That's interesting. So really what you're saying is we need to I think what you're saying is that we need to understand the limitations of these platforms in order to appreciate what they can do. But also that understanding those limitations allows you to have the kind of the right expectations. Like I always say that about like the news. It's like you can't turn on the news and think you're going to get the story of what's going on in the world. You're just going to get the story of what that particular news outlet thinks you want to hear about, and that they have, enough information about, right? So it's like what you go to these tools with helps you experience them. That's a really, really interesting
And part
point.
of what makes social media a great option for discussing politics or nuanced issues is that it's more of a conversation than news has ever been, which
Yes.
means that you have way more of an opportunity to debate. But again, going into social media, you have to understand that unless you are engaging with these conversations with an alternate perspective, you are being exposed to a single story. And just the skill of recognizing when you are being exposed to a single story is invaluable.
And do you think that you learned that through school or through your work with I Can Help, or on your own?
Honestly, for this, I would definitely say on my own, especially during the pandemic. That was the only time of my life I've ever used Twitter.
Oh, interesting.
And platforms specifically like Twitter, where it's just dialogue, have a tendency to skew, especially because they are specifically tracking what you're interested in. And so they are going to recommend to you what they think that you want to hear. And so I started to recognize that I needed the skill to be able to step away from a platform like that and engage with whether it be politics or anything else, engage with it independently, still have those conversations, but not necessarily with people I agree with.
Love that. Amin, do you have thoughts about what skills you think people need to be successful and how that matches up to what you're actually learning in school?
I think that in the digital world, it's important for youth and just people in general. I think it's important to go in knowing that you might not be like represented in like, for example, I'm Iranian, and there's a lot of political turmoil in Iran right now regarding like women life freedom and just an oppressive dictatorship. And at first I didn't see much like representation on social media and in the digital world, so I was like kind of frustrated and a little confused, but I've kind of noticed the power that social media can have from that is like there's so much like a room for activism and kind of sharing your opinion and going in. So I'd say when you're going into social media, you should understand that you might not be represented, but that doesn't mean that you should kind of accept defeat in a way. You can push for more recognition and create communities with each other.
Okay. Thank you for that. Pranav, and then Alexa.
All right. So I like what Kaden said about the Twitter example and how the algorithms that Twitter uses constantly recommends what you're interested in based on the content you've been looking at. And I've been talking to some students in India about this. It traps you in some sort of filter bubble where you're surrounded by the same type of information, the same biased sources, the same one side of the story. So I feel like something they could teach us in school is to well verse ourselves in a variety of different sources and expose ourselves to diversified information, and just like teach us to befriend different people, a lot of different people in the world with different perspectives. So you're constantly not just exposed to a single group of people that share one perspective. Instead, have all sorts of perspectives on all sorts of different issues that are taking place in this world. And another thing that I feel like schools are not really teaching us is how last year in 7th grade, they had a unit for digital safety. They talked about do not cyberbully. They said like create stronger passwords, don't share private info, don't spread fake news, and all of that. Those were really good digital safety tips. But what I felt was a problem was that first of all, a lot of these safe internet skills were designed by adults, and they followed a sort of one size fits all approach. And I felt like there were quite a few problems with that approach because like what young people think of as internet safety issues, like cyber threats, and how we deal with them are very different from what adults think of cyber threats.
Such a good point.
Yeah, and like what's considered as a norm by students and kids might not be considered a norm in the adult world. So maybe instead of just in the classroom, instead of just listing internet safety skills that we must follow, you should try and ask the students questions. Ask us what our digital challenges are, what cyber threats we face, and how each one of us tries to overcome them. And maybe just a random idea, get high schoolers to talk to us about their experiences when they were our age and share those lessons they might have learned when they were our age with us. And even more, you can have classmates teach classmates, friends teach friends. Like peer-to-peer interactions are very good because when I went to India to talk to some kids my own age, the teachers gave me a lot of positive feedback, which was that students connected very well and responded to their own age group effectively. So I feel like in the classrooms, they can do a lot of peer-to-peer collaboration and peer-to-peer open discussion to have ourselves understand digital skills much better. And because each of us has our own independent challenges that we face online, and I feel like each of us has our own way of overcoming those digital challenges when we're online.
That really well said. It's interesting because it makes me think about privacy and how just like a conversation about privacy and the way my generation perceives privacy versus the way your generation, it's a totally like, and you have to understand those differences before you start to think about how to teach around it, right? Like we have to understand how you all perceive privacy because it just isn't the same. It doesn't exist in the same space as it did when I was growing up, right?
Sorry, you go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like maybe you can have students be involved in teaching or like even designing the curriculum and policy making decisions, because like students can provide a more an insight, their own unique perspective and insight that adults may not have thought of before.
Yeah, it's great. You guys are awesome. Alexa, any additional thoughts about what you need to thrive in this world today?
Definitely. And also just really quick to Pranav's point, I think that's a huge part of the social media conversation. I just went with I Can Help and I spoke at my old middle school actually, which was a really cool experience.
That's
and my
awesome.
younger cousin was in the audience. My young cousin was in the audience and she was saying that exactly what you were saying. A lot of times it feels disconnected because there's the people who come in and speak to us and they don't really know what we're going through. But having someone who is a college student or a high school student kind of be like, I know I'm on my phone for 7 hours a day. I know what you guys are going through. To have that is huge. But as far as a skill to feel well in the digital space, I think another huge thing we see has had an effect on mental health was the increase of social media use, whether that's depression or anxiety. And I think a lot of that also stems from comparison and comparison to your peers and things like that. And I think it's really important to remember that social media is a highlight reel. And we always say it like it's a bad thing, which it isn't necessarily, because that's how social media was designed, was you became Facebook official when you started dating your boyfriend or girlfriend. And so, but that's just something to remember is even if somebody is vlogging every day or is posting a daily TikTok every day or posting their aesthetic Instagram stories, it's all thought through and it's all manufactured, and social media is a highlight reel. So you can't compare your reality to somebody else's facade.
I like that idea though of not making that necessarily bad. Like even the way Caden was talking about like how you have to know what this tool is. Like, right, like let's be honest, like that is what you're going to see when you go to Instagram. And when you know that, then you can kind of interact with it in an authentic way. And I think that's I also think that I'm not thrilled whenever we make anything all good or all bad, because it's always more complicated than that. But few of you brought up this idea of like younger selves or younger people mentoring. And I'd love to get a little bit like if you were mentoring a fifth grader, or you could go back and kind of tell your fifth grade self, like when you got your phone, like what do you wish you knew? And what are the tips you would give a kid who just got a phone and just got their first social media account? Let's start with Caden, because it's been a while since we heard from him. You're still there, right?
Yeah, I honestly think that I would start off by telling a fifth grader that they probably shouldn't use social media.
Fascinating.
I would usually suggest that they do not use social media, but I also have to recognize that when I was in fifth grade, I'm pretty sure I had social media. So I definitely understand the desire there. But I would suggest that instead of listening or really paying attention to the parts about like cyberbullying and cybercrime that's talked about so much, I would focus significantly more on monitoring the conversations that you are noticing coming up on your feed. Because this is something that I've seen more and more, especially with like applications like TikTok, where people will suddenly have eating disorder content all over their page. And that type of like reinforcement over and over and over, seeing this type of dangerous content is to me significantly more dangerous than the conversation about cyberbullying, which is so much more talked about, because cyberbullying sort of doesn't exist to an extent anymore. I definitely think it exists sometimes in private messages and all of that, but on most of social media, the comment section is completely monitored automatically, and all negative comments, well, most negative comments are taken down. So cyberbullying
That's a really
has
interesting point.
Yeah, cyberbullying has relatively diminished, but what hasn't diminished is the propagation of negative conversations that can have a seriously bad impact on the mental health of the users.
So what would you say, like, what would you tell a fifth grader? Would you say disengage? Would you say, like, what is the advice if they are seeing, like, what is the advice that you would want to hear, that you would have wanted to hear?
Well, on almost every social media platform, there's usually a button that says not interested. But aside from not interested, something that you can do is bring it up to your parents. I especially would suggest that when it's something having to do with mental health, because that can be something that even being exposed to it once or twice could start triggering negative thoughts and negative processes. And if your parents can at least be aware that these thoughts are occurring, even if they can't stop them, they can at least be aware of if there are certain changes in the behavior of their kid. So I think that from like more of a psychological perspective, we should be monitoring what we're seeing on our social media that's recommended to us even more than what is being said directly to us. Because I have to say, I think that people my age, we've gotten so used to the like ironic negativity online. Like you see it so much that it's kind of lost its influence. I would say that negative commentary doesn't necessarily get as much attention as it maybe did 10 years ago. But I think that the recommendations, the algorithms, that is having way, way more of an impact than it ever has. You can actually see it with music. Smaller artists will randomly blow up over the course of 2 days because a social media platform notices a trend and lifts it up in front of everyone's face. And so when these types of processes occur with things that are more psychologically damaging, it can have
it's like
really
that could be a
drastic-
positive thing, but it can be very damaging also.
Right.
Really excellent points. Amin, do you have any thoughts about what you would tell a fifth grader?
I think that I would tell either a fifth grader or my fifth grade self is to like not compare myself to these unrealistic standards set by influencers, or basically like on social media or just in the digital world in general. It's easy for like teens or even my like older people to feel lost, and I see people like always comparing their followers and their likes, and it's a very harmful mentality, because that they compare their likes and followers and all these numbers to their self-worth, so it can really like deplete your mental health. So I would tell a fifth grader to, you know, not compare themselves and just know that they're good for who they are.
Love that. Okay, Alexa and then Pranav. Mixing it up. I'm keeping you guys on your toes.
I think something huge, and we see it more at like the middle school level rather than in high school or college, but is digital citizenship. And with that, like there's power in numbers. And so I think if, like, for example, I'm thinking of a specific TikTok account about the middle school that I was just at, and it was like rating the people at middle school. So it doesn't necessarily, it's not like cyberbullying how you normally traditionally think about it, of like attacking one person, but it's just kind of like sets an overall tone for the school and the respect you have for one another and the empathy you have for one another. So there's power in numbers. And if you see something, you can screenshot it and send it to your friend group chat, like, hey, I saw this, and if you guys go report it, like it'll most likely get taken down. Because the more people that report an account or a post, the more flags it's going to raise for tech companies, and the quicker it'll be looked at. That's how the science and like process of it works. So there's power in numbers, and also just to remember that there are people behind the screens. You aren't just sending things out into the abyss. Also, for just technology in general, for fifth grade and sixth graders, I wish I did this more. Think before you hit send on a message, and make sure that whatever you're sending, if it gets shared with the person you're talking about or shared with anybody else, you're fine with that, because you have a digital footprint. And I think something that's not talked about a lot is your digital footprint isn't just what you post on your public platform. What you post on your private Snapchat story, someone else can take a picture of it with their phone, and now that's for everyone to see and share. So keep in mind what digital footprint is, and keep in mind what you're sharing, and who would you be okay with that, seeing that, I think is the biggest advice I give.
Oh, this is such brilliant advice. I absolutely love it. We're at the point where we're going to bring Michael and Elizabeth back in and take we've been kind of curating audience questions. So I'm going to keep the questions going as they join us. But some interesting questions came in from the audience as you were all talking. One of the things that came up, I think, Pranav, when you were talking, and I just realized that I didn't give you an opportunity to answer the last question. So you could wrap this answer into that one. But this idea of what are some of your biggest safety concerns? And do you find it easy to get support?
So I feel like one of the biggest concerns for kids my age is that they, as Alexa said, they don't think before they act. We all have a digital footprint. Even like on Snapchat, they say your message deletes after 24 hours. If anyone screenshots it, saves it, it's on forever. And even if you don't see that, you don't know if someone else took a picture or anything, because even if the site says it's deleted, it's gonna stay on forever. You can't really erase anything you type online. So I feel like the biggest concern right now is you have to teach kids our age who are not yet fully reached the stage of maturity, because they probably do not think before they hit send yet. I feel like we should teach kids my age more about the greater effects of what happens, how like one message you didn't mean for someone to see can snowball into some big mess. So we want to teach them how they can avoid that by just thinking before they act. I feel like that's the main thing that we
I
can.
think that's also for adult, like that's for people my age too, let's be honest, right? We always direct all our tips toward youth, and like I think there's a lot of older people that need all these tips also. Hi, Michael, thanks for joining us.
And I feel like one thing I would tell my fifth grade self is that
Please.
you can use social media. I'm fine with that. Just be responsible, because there are lots of benefits to social media, especially like during the COVID pandemic. We were all isolated from everyone, and it really took an impact on our mental health. I feel like being well connected with your friends and relatives around the state and around the world, it would do a great deal of help in those tough times for everyone. And you would get a lot of updates on important issues. You would get unique perspectives from people you probably wouldn't have heard of before social media. So I think there's certainly a lot of benefits to social media. And as long as like a fifth grader is responsible and mature, I think it's okay for them to use it.
I love it. So a bunch of other questions actually. So first of all, we got a comment, what an incredible and articulate group of young people. I agree, and I'm sure Elizabeth and Michael do too. So are there platforms or groups for them or others like them to connect, share strategies and challenges, and find support? And I guess in this way, you might talk about the organizations you're involved with, but who wants to take that? Caden.
If you engage with specifically on Instagram and LinkedIn, I Can Help official has these conversations constantly. Engaging in comments and even in lives is the best way that you can interact with myself and all of the other people, including Alexa at I Can Help. And we are always trying to find ways that we can have the conversation about digital wellness on social media specifically. So I would most likely suggest through Instagram. Also, if you want to get more involved, you can email us from the I Can Help website, and you can also DM us, and we will check that as quickly as we can. We have lots of opportunities for volunteer positions, and at the beginning and the middle of the year, we have specialist positions. And if you are really interested on taking on a role at I Can Help, you can also work as an intern and lead one of our committees. But I can't suggest anything more than at least engaging with the post and starting those conversations with yourself, the people in the comments, and those in your life.
That's awesome. Alexa, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I think, again, with our posts that we have at I Can Help Official on Instagram, it's really nice because there is quite a range of posts. There are posts that are spotlighting students who are doing awesome work, and you can go follow them or like engage individually with them. We also have posts about like how to talk about digital wellness, what is digital wellness, and like kind of more informational posts. And also posts that are just like fun videos that like we have a theme for each month. So share the love, like how you're sharing the love there at school, highlighting like good that is happening on social media. If you go to icanhelp.net/events, we have student voice webinars each month where we have panels of students come on and share their projects for other students to get inspired and get involved. So that's another great resource. And like Caden said, we have really volunteer positions for everyone. Students anywhere from 13 and up can volunteer. We have internships for college students as well who can get college credit. We have mentor positions open, and all that's available at icanhelp.net.
Awesome. Amin and Pranav, do you want to share?
For me, over the pandemic, I used a social media app called Discord, and it's kind of a app to just, it was originally made for like gaming and stuff, but it's been turned into kind of like communities and servers for anything. So you know, if you have any interests or just any topic, like it's almost guaranteed that Discord will have a server for you to go discuss and talk about those things that you're interested in, or that are issues that you just kind of need to talk to someone about. I think there's a lot of good opportunities on there.
And have you have you connected and experienced like positive interactions on that site in
Yes.
particular?
I've experienced positive and negative experiences, but I think that comes with any social media app. So yeah, it's been great, I think.
It's awesome. Pranav, anything to
Yeah,
share?
as Amin said, I think every social media app comes with positive and negative interactions when you meet and connect with new people online. And since I'm not old enough to have like Facebook, Twitter, and some of those apps, I stick to some apps that kids my age use, like Snapchat, Discord, and Instagram. And on those apps, like I connect with lots of people because Instagram still provides you with some news updates as well. I connect to some people with different perspectives, like I said before, so I get a wide variety of views and perspectives on all issues. And on Snapchat, mostly I'm talking to all my friends and family members, and there I mostly experience positive interactions because I always connect with people I know well. And in Instagram, mostly the same thing. I get positive interactions as well.
It's great. So this is a question for all of us to answer, which is, if you could change one thing about the online world, what would it be? And I think that everyone would probably have some thoughts about that. I'm gonna just call on Alexa to start us off. If you could change one thing about the online world, what would it be? And Michael and Elizabeth, get ready, because I'm gonna ask you too.
I think a lot of the issues that come from social media and when we start seeing it used for negative rather than good is when people are on it for too long, because you get into like this mind warped space of social media. And so I know that there are certain things about like they have like little check-ins and things like that, but kind of like if all social media apps or platform had like a 1 hour limit of like, okay, like kind of like gives you a little warning, like you only have like 10 more minutes and it knocks you off and you can't go on for another half hour or so, because it like literally locks you out of the app, because it really makes you step away and rethink. Because I think that's where a lot of negativity comes from, is when you're just scrolling for too long and you get caught up in a Twitter thread, or you're like going down a rabbit hole on TikTok. So I guess having tech companies incorporate digital wellness strategies into their apps.
I'm sure Elizabeth and Michael would probably agree with that.
Definitely.
That seems like right up your alley. Yeah.
I was like, yay.
Yeah. Amin, what about you? What's one thing you would change about the online world?
I think specifically in like on social media, I think one thing that I would want to just completely remove is like the only post it if it's perfect mentality. I think that's like, especially on like Instagram, it's like really toxic, and it's just like negative and blocks authentic connection, and it gives a false sense of reality pretty much. So basically, like the post it if it's perfect mentality or narrative is just like only post your wins, and only post things that would make you seem like, oh, higher social status or stuff like that. So I see people only posting if they, you know, win their game, get their job that they wanted, get into a dream school. And I think that really just like feeds insecurities and comparisons, because it's just unrealistic for life to be perfect, and everyone goes through their hardships and everyone has challenges in life, and it's super unrealistic to only show positives on social media, especially people who also have unlimited financial resources. It's just not the same. So I think I'd want to get rid of that narrative.
Do you have any opinions about the Be Real app?
Okay, I was actually going to mention that. I think that is definitely a great start.
Interesting.
And at first it's like it was like doing a lot. And for a lot of people, it does that. But I still see for some people, it's like, oh, you want to get the best Be Real spot. Like,
Right.
and even though it like prompts you to post at a specific time, like you can still post later. And
Yes.
a lot of people still do that. So I think that's also the company that I'm advising, Empathy, still in beta, release soon though. I think that's their goal, is to just make the authentic connections and, you know, make it okay to feel your emotions and feel your feelings and not always be happy and, you know, jolly all the time. So yeah.
Hayden, did you have something? Sorry, I think I detoured us by mentioning Be Real. Do you have a thought about that?
Yeah. So I take a lot of issue with Be Real because I view
I
it
love
as
this.
artificial authenticity. I think that a lot of the time people, it really to me has very little to do with what exactly they're doing when they take the picture. That's not necessarily what matters. It's more so that Be Real creates a false sense of reality using social media. So by trying to use social media to show reality, they're almost making it more confusing what exactly social media is used for. And I don't think that social media is used to project reality. I think it is intentionally to create a like a perfect little pruned version of yourself. And so I don't think that there's a problem with that, to be honest. I take no issue with the making your pictures look nice. I think that there's definitely an issue when it becomes like more body dysmorphic, like
Yeah.
Photoshop type of issues, showing non-realistic standards of beauty, that kind of stuff has more of like a social impact. But when it comes to using social media for authenticity, that's just simply not what it's for. And I think that
Oh my gosh,
using a
that is
platform
so,
like Be
you're
Real makes it
blowing, literally blowing my mind right now. Like, and I'm thinking, I feel like you're talking right at me and my Be Real accounts. It's important. I'm reflecting a lot right now. Thank you, Kaden. Okay, you're fine to comment again on Be Real. But I'm gonna, Elizabeth, what about you? What would you change if you could change one thing about the online world?
Okay, but you know I have to talk about Be Real. Sorry, Michelle. Sorry. No, I just thought that what Carden was saying was so spot on. And Amin had mentioned as well about like the different times. And I always get the notification when really like I'm in my pajamas or it's like doing something crazy. And I'm like, I am really not going to showcase this to the world. So it is that, what do you call it, Kaden, that artificial authenticity?
Yeah, artificial.
Yeah, exactly. So therefore, I have nothing on Be Real because I could never actually do it. So, but going back to your original question, that is such a tough one. Because I don't even know which hat I'm wearing to answer that question. So I think I'll just go with the first thing that I can think of, and that is being as a woman, as a person of color, and that is just to get rid of the hate. That's what I would remove from the online world, because it's just too much.
Yeah. That's going to be hard to follow up, but Pranav,
well, of course, you didn't say impossible stuff. You just said, what would I get rid of? So, you know.
Yeah. No, I agree. Pranav.
So I feel that we should, so you know how in every social media platform, it's like they want you to spend more and more time. It's like smooth surfing, every TikTok, every video. It's so easy to scroll down, get to the next video. YouTube, there's autoplay. Also a Snapchat, there's the For You page and the spotlight. You can easily scroll through. They're literally enabling you to just keep on watching the content for hours on end. I feel like instead we should reduce that amount of, get rid of smooth surfing and maybe add some friction on social media, so the users can like get a notification after they've spent just like Alexa said. We can like make it a little harder for them to like smoothly watch a lot of TikTok or YouTube, so it can give them a small chance to think before going back to start another hour-long episode or all that stuff.
That's great. Michael.
I like friction. I'm going to play on a word I just heard Pranav say. I want to say, I'll depart a little from the like shaping the online world we have today. I would make everything like the whole thing a learning platform that I feel that what maybe is inhibiting in our current online space is the rabbit holes and the narrowly defined experience we might have based on the algorithmic feeds that we're all subject to and our close circle of friends, and not necessarily engaged in things that expand our mindset, our knowledge, challenge our perspectives generally. And I think personally, I think that's a big way to go for well-being in a long game sense, that if you are growing and learning and discovering new ways of thinking and new ideas, that you may be better off overall. And that is the liberatory nature of having the totality of all media available to you, but we don't actually go get it, and we're not likely to explore outside of our comfort zone, partly out of human nature and partly out of the way the internet is designed to maximize engagement around the things that everybody knows, Facebook knows we want to look at. So that's my redesign. Laura, hope that answered your question, and please start working on it.
Get on that. So Kaden, you didn't actually answer that question, I realize. Do you have thoughts on, right? You didn't get to the, what would you change?
No, I don't. Well, I think that's something that I would change about social media is, once again, just sort of the way that it's viewed. I do definitely think that there is a disconnect between the way that, at least the way that young people experience social media and the way that adults have a tendency to think that young people experience social media. And so I think that something that I would change is the talking points on social media. Like, I think that there's so many discussions like about social media that actually don't encompass the real issues that are being experienced. And so like moving away from conversations of like not getting scammed and toward conversations of like escaping the echo chamber that is social media. Like, I think that we just need to change the way that we're discussing issues and move toward the more nuanced perspective that you will see with like modern social media use.
That's so eloquent. Oh man, I don't even know what to say. You guys are making me speechless, which anyone that knows me that's a very, very hard thing to do. So we're kind of at the end, and I'm wondering if anyone would like to share just parting thoughts. Like, you have an opportunity to talk to an audience right now on Safer Internet Day, is just like Elizabeth and Michael kind of shared at the end of their part. Is there anything you haven't said that you want to share? Amin?
I think just like balance. Like, in life, there's going to be positives and there's going to be negatives. And sometimes it's going to be really easy to focus on the positives, and other times it's going to be really easy to focus on the negatives. But I think balance is super important, especially in online spaces, and not overdoing it, but also kind of, going in, maybe pushing a little bit out of your comfort zone. But yeah, I'd say overall just balance.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, I was just going to say we need more kids and kids' voices like what I've been hearing today. And one of the questions that I had even had was for I Can Help, because I'm in London, is to sit there and figure out how can we make this truly international, and take it further. So that's what I would say. Anyone listening, contact. Go ahead, Alexa, say it. I Can Help events or whatever.
Yeah. I love the internet. I'm sure Kim from I Can Help would love that. Yeah, it's amazing. Anyone else have just final thoughts? Anything you didn't share that you want to make sure that you get out there?
Yeah, I just feel like in order to have a big and positive impact on internet safety, again, I just want to reiterate how important it is for adults to gain the insight of kids and students on all sorts of issues online, because just a little bit of advice can do a great deal in showing them a whole new perspective in perhaps teaching kids a new way, giving maybe new ways of teaching kids and helping them further understand and apply digital safety skills in the real world. Because the main challenge, I feel like, is it's harder to get what we learn in the classroom to transition into the real life situations. And if we can get students to apply what they learn in class in their own unique real world situations, then we can have a really positive impact on digital safety.
That, I think that's a perfect thing to land on, Pranav. Thank you so much. Sarah from the Cooney Center is joining us, and she's going to wrap up the event. I just want to thank every single one of you for spending your time with us this afternoon, for sharing your insights, for being as amazing and awesome as you are, and for just being so thoughtful about these issues. It's just really inspiring and really exciting to know you. So thank you so much for being here. And there is Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Thank you, Michelle. And just on behalf of the Cooney Center and namely, I would just really like to thank our fantastic panelists for a wonderful, thoughtful, and very fun chat with a fantastic moderator. We really heard so many perspectives on what well-being for children in the digital age really means, why it's important, and how we can all work towards it. Some things that really stood out for me in the conversation today, and I'm sure many of you have other themes and other takeaways. So as I'm listing mine, please put yours in the chat as well. For me, what I heard was that well-being is holistic. It's mental, it's physical, it's online, it's offline, and it's also very personal. There's no one size fits all. We heard some amazing advice. We heard, one, that we should listen to kids, two, we should listen to kids, and that we should engage in critical thinking and conversation, that we should explore this digital world together, that we should have open dialogues between people. And then another takeaway for a theme for me was that if we can have a thoughtfully designed digital spaces combined with young people who are equipped with the right skills, that it can really result in positive experiences that ideally help kids learn and grow. So I would also like to thank all of you who tuned into this conversation this afternoon. And we hope that you will continue this conversation with us, follow the Cooney Center and namely on social media for tools, resources, and other ways to continue this work together on how we can all move from safe to thriving. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for being with us, and have enjoyed the rest of your Safer Internet Day. That, I think, will wrap up our webinar for this afternoon.